Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pawel the Cat with my beautiful co-host.
Hey, I really appreciate, man. I get called beautiful more often by my co-host than I do by my own wife.
I acknowledge beauty where I see it, and I think you do a beautiful job with your Reds Top 15, which we'll get into a little bit later, your facts, and especially your rants. You really got it down. But, Evan, you have a beverage because this is Season 5, Episode 36. We're almost at the end. We're Final Four. We've got a lot going on. We hope you are tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe on our YouTube, on our X or Twitter feed. We got a lot going on the show today. We got a lot to talk about. But Evan, cheers, and cheers to you watching wherever you are in the world. We've got a hockey, baby. All right, Evan. We've got a lot to cover. We've got the Final Four. We've got some teams that are now out that we need to discuss. We've got some goal or coach hirings, and we've got some prospects. We've got the World Championship going on. We've got the PWHL playoffs. Where to begin, Evan? Because I am getting hockey everywhere. Where to begin?
Okay, so why don't we do this? Because there's a few people still jumping on. A lot of people are going to want to talk about the NHL playoffs. So let's wait about 10 minutes. We'll let some of you jump on. If you're watching this later, we're just waiting in a little bit. Before we share any news of anything happening live tonight, we will tell you, spoiler alert, and you can mute your buttons so that you don't know. We will not post it in the comments, but we will say it out loud at some point, probably in our discussion, because there is a game going on live here tonight. So why don't we do let me just talk about something really simple to start. Hoaxes. Have you been noticing? I know I've talked about this. I might have even ranted. Have you seen some of the hoaxes that are out there, but they're like mean and they're stupid clickbaits?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So
there's a lot out there right now.
Okay. And if you're following right now, maybe let us know what you saw too. Just put it in the comments. What are some things that you saw? So, Pawel, what are some things that you saw that are out there? You know that are hoaxes. They're just clickbait. What are some of the storylines?
Mitch Marner for UC Soros straight away, and that they're trading him immediately. They haven't even talked to him yet, and all of a sudden he's already being traded to Nashville and trade proposals. The other one is Mitch Marner for Seth Jones in Chicago with some other pieces in between. Already that's what's happening.
Well, actually, I think that, you know what? You got to wonder if Toronto would definitely go for that one. But how do you trade a guy that you're going to have to sign? I mean, you got a guy on a contract, right? You know, it's just kind of weird, some of these rumors. How about Draisaitl to the Canadians? It's sealed. He is going to the Canadiens.
Oh, I heard Boston. I heard to Boston already. So.
Well, that was confirmed too. Draisaitl to Boston. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have also heard about this, but that there was the actual confirmation that I just saw that says that Pettersson is going to Utah. Elias Pettersson confirmed trade to Utah
already
for 2 first-round draft picks and Logan Cooley and Clayton Keller.
Okay,
So,
good to know. I didn't realize that He just signed a big contract to stay in Vancouver and decided that, nah, this is not the team I want to be at that just made the postseason. Has a Jack Adams winning coach, has some great line mates, took the Oilers to game 7 in the second round, and he's like, nope, I'm going to Utah.
Oh, man. Okay, can we just say this really quick? If you're joining in late and you hear us talking about these rumors, these are not rumors. These are hoaxes. They are people. We're talking about clickbait out there where different people are saying different stuff, and they're trying to get people all jacked up and following some of their sites. You know, I have decided, and we did put it up, I didn't want people to get clickbait, so I didn't actually say who's doing the stupid stuff, but I realized people are still going there anyway, Pawel. So from this point on, I think we need to call out these sites that are actually terrible.
I just don't give them any credence. I don't publicly give into it.
I never have.
It's fun to speculate. It's fun to kind of, predict and fantasize about what you're going to do or what.
Yeah, but they're making it not just a rumor, but they're making it official, and they're acting and lying. They're literally lying about people like Friedman and insiders, and like they're actually coming up with stories, and it's falsifying so that they can get their hits. So for me, they're getting their hits whether I help them or not, but you can report them. So I just want to make mention, if you're on some of the social media channels, report these guys. Go out there and report them. So I see my buddy, he is getting going. He's actually sending out all of his different feeds right now while I'm talking.
Trying to get it all going here. Trying to get our
We're
shares
trying
out.
to get you guys happening there. So, hey, guys, thanks for joining in. I want to give a big shout out. Last week, man, Nevada, you guys are still sticking around to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Florida, you guys have been in, and I really appreciate last week we had the Carolinas in. Good for you guys, man. Thanks for joining us. If you're a Carolina fan, we love to have you come in and chat regularly. Maybe if we see you around, you guys got to know this. If we see you around and you're in the chat rooms more often, you might just be a random pick for us to bring you on the show live and be able to talk about your favorite team or favorite topic at some point down the road. All right. Where should we go now?
Well, since you brought up Carolina, let's talk a little bit about what happens next. They re-signed Rob Brindamore and his assistant coaching staff to the thing. They go out. They lose in 6 to the Rangers, and no shame in that. The Rangers are an elite team. They're moving on. But what does Carolina do? Because they have some pending UFAs. There's a lot of talk about Kotkaniemi eventually with a buyout. Do you return with the same tandem for goaltending, which we know is a struggle this offseason or this past season? Or do you look at moving someone? Martin Nakis, or Natchez, however you want to pronounce it. Is he coming back? Is he not coming back? What's happening there? You have a team that's pretty much been in the second round for the last few years. One time or twice, I think it was, in the third round and lost. What do you do if you're Carolina? You went out and you got Kuznetsov. You got Jane Genso, who's now potentially a UFA. Do you re-sign him? Does he go back to Pittsburgh? What do you do if you're Tom Dundon and Don Waddell, sorry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I like to just say it, and now I will brag. I've been telling you guys Brindamore's going nowhere. Well, everybody's getting those rumors out there. It was a sealed deal. They just weren't going to do it till the playoffs were done. They were working out all the details. Brindamore, likely he's got himself, not just because of a contract, but he's got a minimum 3 years. I think people got to understand this is not the Stanley Cup playoffs where you get 16 teams in a 12-team league or 16 in a 22-team league. There is now 32 teams. Only half the teams make the playoffs. And so when you can be consistently in the playoffs every year, you got to give credence to your team for even playing. Stop trying to say this is going to change Hall of Fame also, because you can't go based on players saying, well, they were in the Hall of Fame. I think even the best players are most valuable to teams. You got to stop saying if they make the playoffs. Are they the most valuable to their team because they made the playoffs? Yeah. What if they score 150 points and the next closest guy scores 50? Do you know what I mean? So they're not the most valuable player. Well, I mean, they're not just the best. They're probably the most valuable to that team. So I think that they're going to have to change the rules on that. But, man, if you're Carolina, if you're a fan of the Caniacs, you got to like this offseason because there's going to be a lot of excitement, both tears and both enjoyment where you're jumping for the ceiling at some re-signings. However, interesting, Elliot Friedman talking a little bit about KK being bought out potentially. That's a weird one that I want to follow up on because I'm wondering if that's a hoax. I have a hard time believing that. I didn't actually catch the podcast. It must have been yesterday or today.
Yeah. It was last week that they considered, or a few days
Okay.
ago, because they've been releasing quite a few episodes.
Did-
They've been talking
Kenny?
about potentially that's something that they're entertaining, because the buyout would be like, I think it comes down to like $1 million, 1.5. I'd have to look at cap friendly to see
Well, that's
what
a
it
long
is.
time though.
But he wasn't performing. He was kind of a ghost in the last series. He didn't really do much. Yeah,
He has 6 years left, right?
Yeah, less than I think.
No, I think he's good till 2030. I thought.
Let me take a look here. I'll let you know quickly what he is at. He is at Kakanyemi. He's 6 more years. Yeah. You're right. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
And he's
4.825. And
you're almost at $5 million a year, right?
Yeah, that's quite a bit. So, and for someone who you want to be performing, young and upcoming, he's had a few shots in the NHL. He played in Montreal. They traded him away. Technically offer sheeted him, right? They gave him away. And so you look at it, you're expecting something more. You know, he's been given an opportunity to succeed. Now, is it a mentality thing? And we'll get into a little bit like this with PLD out in LA with what's going on there. But is it a mentality thing? Because you know he's a skilled player, but can he compete at this level? Because sometimes it's hard, right? And does Rob Brindamore trust him? Because he was playing, I think, very few minutes by the end there in game 5 and 6 for the Carolina Canes. So I don't know. What do you think about him? Do you think that there's a buyout? Why would you give him one more chance? I mean, I get that it's 6 years, but do you look for a trading partner potentially?
I wonder if they give one more year. That's a big contract still. Maybe one more. I don't know what the numbers are because I haven't done it. I just noticed it about an hour before we went on here tonight. I hadn't been following that part. So I don't know. I think they got to run one more year, but it's going to depend on what's happening for re-signing. Maybe that's why the buyout. If they can re-sign some of those players, they got, like, for example, do they want to keep Getzel? I think Jake fit really well into that team. I think Jake wants to stay. So the question is, can you fit him in still and a couple of the other players you need to sign and still keep KK? I think that's the question. And maybe that's why the buyout's going to be necessary in order to land the best team under the salary cap. But the goalie situation, they're going to have to resolve, though. They're not going to be able to run back next year and be able to be in the top 4, I don't think.
I agree with you. I think they need to do something. But moving away from that, we have a new hire. So, Rhonda and I are saying Jim Hiller, he's been removed as the interim coach, and he's now the head coach of the LA Kings. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And what did they do with Pierre-Luc Dubois? Because I know Jake and I wanted to talk about it. We got sidetracked. You were at AEW Raw. You were having a blast. Your thoughts on Jim Hiller as a hire, and what does LA do next?
Okay, so I just want to mention for all the wrestling geeks, they're all furious right now. You said AEW Raw. It's AEW Dynamite because Raw is the WWE.
Sorry.
So all you wrestling geeks, don't get upset just because Pawel, he was just excited. He sees them both on TV now. All right. Kyle, man, we're going to talk about your Bruins in just a minute here. They went out, but we're going to talk about that. So anyway, Hiller. So I'm interested with our friend from the Hockey News is Connor Doyle, who's been on our show. If you guys want to go back and check our previous episode, what Connor thinks about this, especially that buyout. I don't know what this team is doing, to be honest with you. I'm a little concerned. I don't think Hillier is a bad coach. I just think that right now, with what you've done and the players you've got, I feel like the general manager and the president are struggling right now at trying to find the right mix, and they don't want to mess with too much. But I think we obviously saw in the series against Edmonton, they are miles and miles behind, and they have a lot of work to do to catch up. So they're going to have to deal with the Dubois thing. I've seen Dubois playing over in with Hockey Canada. Not impressed any more than I was in the playoffs for a guy of his stature. Like the guy, like his basic talent, but not as a top 6 forward right now. He's not able to bring it. And the coaching, I just think they went with the same system to try to build in. They're going to not have Doughty soon. They're going to have to change up, and I think they're going to have to change their style of game at some point here.
Yep, no, 100%. And I think they need to do a bit of a retool. They did sign Big Save Dave Riddick to 1 more year. He was a solid backup, especially what you need. Cam Talbot had somewhat of a career year again. He was named an all-star, and he's played well. But is that really your tandem again? Cam Talbot and David Riddick? Because again, if you have to face Edmonton again, or Vegas, or Vancouver, or maybe Calgary comes up and starts being very competitive again next season, do you really believe your chances are better next year? What are you doing? Right? And Anze Kopitar, he's getting 1 year older, Evan. He's not going to be as fast as he was, right? And you traded away a lot of your young guys. Now, the one prospect, and I'm sure you would agree that Brant Clark is probably going to come in and play full time, and I think he's going to make an impact right away. He's been solid, but I think they really need to figure it out on that back end because, again, Doughty, like Kopitar, 1 year older. I know they got big contracts, but you can't rely on those guys to play big minutes for a long time all season.
Yeah, you wonder. What I'm really worried about is Clark's health. He hasn't seemed to stay healthy. It's not a lot different than Drysdale. Than one of the reasons they moved him out, right?
Yeah.
With that. So okay, so we got that.
Now, Kyle was asking, so Kyle's tuning in. Appreciate it, Kyle. I know he's really into the NBA Finals with the Celtics, but let's talk about the other big Boston team, and that's the Bruins. They've been eliminated, and what do they do? Is their number one priority to take care of Jeremy Swayman and trade Linus Ullmark in the offseason, Evan?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this. They kind of showed their hand when they decided to run with Swayman in the playoffs. So let's consider Ullmark gone. I mean, Boston doesn't need to have the two of those guys to win. I think that's been proven, with it. And by the way, I like to give credence. So, Kyle, a little bit of inside. At least I think it's inside. I'm going to trust one of our good friends, a podcaster, Mark Allred Jr., who was scheduled for our show, but we have overlaps on our Wednesday night. So, Mark, if you're listening, thanks for the feedback that he's got it out there and he's listed it. But one thing with the Bruins that he's brought mention to is they are going to have no changes. They are running back with Neely. They are running back with Montgomery as the coach. And they are bringing back Don Sweeney still. So, to be honest with you, they're getting more out of this team than they should. I don't think
Yes.
I'm shocked 2 years ago, even with the team they have, are they deep? I don't know. They're not as deep to me as Dallas. To me, they weren't as deep as, say, Colorado. They're not. They're probably not as deep as Carolina. I think that they're maybe on par with New York Rangers, as far as deep. I'm not a believer in that fourth line. But their defense has been solid, but they've never had, outside of Coyle, they never had over the top. We're talking number one, number two defensemen. It's been many years, but yet they still seem to do it. So interesting enough. How do you mess up that team and move those guys? You don't. You just have to. These guys are running it back year after year. Give them this year and next year. Let's let them make some small changes. I do wonder. Vancouver is going to push hard for Lindholm. I don't think they're going to prioritize him over Zadorov. I think they want to bring Zadorov back. They have Zadorov and Hronik, and they need to. Hronik's talking $8 million, but I don't know, maybe 5.5, 6 for Zadorov to be able. And they
it's
need
the term that they're worried about. It's the term that Vancouver doesn't really like.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Maybe you give them a little more for a shorter term too, right? Or you go lower for a longer term so you can and allow a buyout option in there, and explain that to him if he wants to stay. I think he likes Vancouver a lot. It's a great place for him to be able to travel from and stuff like that. So anyway, I would say that I think they're going to push hard for Lindholm. That is, I really do. I'm going to tell you someone else who I think they're going to push hard for. I don't know how they're going to do it or what's going to happen. The two players I'm going to be watching for is Lindholm and Getzel to go to Boston. Those are the two players. But I know the Canes and the Canucks, they want us to re-sign those guys.
Yep. there's definitely going to be a lot of interest around that. We're going to have a really good off season, so make sure you come and check us out because we're going to be following all the latest news, especially on our website, twoguysinhockeytalk.com. All right, so moving away from Boston, who needs center and have to figure out their goaltending, and of course, there's going to be a lot of interest in their goaltending. Evan, what do we do with the Colorado Avalanche? Are they a St. Louis kind of team where they're a one and done, or will Colorado fans at me and say, no, we were right there and we competed, but losing Valerie Nichushkin and a presser tomorrow with the GM and Gabriel Landeskog coming up. Do you think that this is the end for Landeskog? And what does Colorado do next season, especially with the Nichushkin situation?
Wow. They really got dealt a blow with the Nichushkin situation. I feel for the fans and I feel for that team and the players that worked hard this year. I actually thought they were the team that could upset Dallas. I really did think they were going to do it this year. However, let's say this early. We said it, Gorgiev. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie, but you guys need to. That was his first year as a full-time starting goalie.
Played the most games out of any goalie this season.
I know, and I think he was overworked. I really do. I mean,
and they lost their backup, Pavel Francouz, who played against Edmonton a couple seasons ago. He really dominated.
Yeah, and he's a right-handed catcher too, right? Yeah. So that confuses a lot of teams. That was a tough one for Edmonton. They're used to certain sides, certain habits. But yeah, I think right now it's no different than Edmonton, which we'll talk about later near the end of the show. I think that we're dealing with a goalie situation here. Until they can deal with that goalie situation and literally have your goalie needs to be better than a 9.906, which means a 90.6% save percentage. You got to have that. Otherwise, you're going to rely on everybody else to go crazy in the playoffs. Goalies are usually always a part. It was very unusual. Colorado won. And I think they tried to run that back, and everybody tried in the NHL to model what the success was. It's like, oh, we can be last place and win like the St. Louis Blues. Well, guys, that was an anomaly. Just like, they say, oh, well, you go with big, slow defense, or you go with speed, or you go with just an average goalie, spend money up front. They can't keep doing that. Yeah. And Edmonton's going to either have a goalie step up these playoffs, but they're going to be in the same boat, right? So. Yeah.
Now, the one thing to note about Colorado is that if Landeskog does retire, that is somebody off the books. But again, I don't know if he's gonna retire and or if he's just gonna go on LTIR like someone else, and then that contract is traded to say a Utah, to say a team that's looking to pick up some prospects, right? But he's still technically on injury reserve, and he takes up $7 million. So. And Nichushkin, it's going to be 6 months before we know anything, which is November. So it's not like the Colorado Avalanche can know what's going to happen and make some deals knowing that this could potentially return. However, I think that because it's happened twice, I think Colorado is going to look at this and say, okay, how do we just deal with this at least for one more season or half a season and try to trade that contract or terminate that contract by next year, depending on how Nichushkin returns. And we wish him all the best, a speedy recovery. It's never easy with addictions. It's tough. But this is an impact on the team, especially since he was playing so well for the Colorado Avalanche and what was one of the better players against Dallas. Like, he was putting up points. Even in the Winnipeg series, he was very dominant. So you definitely have to think, like, you want him to get better, but the team has to think of the business. And as harsh as that sounds, like that's what it is.
I'm just checking Nichushkin, his contract, 2 more years. So he's basically not going to play next year, essentially. He
can't play next year.
No, listen to me. He's definitely not going to play as in a season, and he's not going to be a player. He's going to have very limited time to be able to play in the season. This guy is going without playing hockey for how many months? You can't go
November. Months. 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months without hockey when you are at the peak of your game and you're not practicing with the team. He is not allowed to practice with the team or anything. I'm telling you.
He can't practice on his own? He can't play on his own?
Oh, he can. What are you going to play with, juniors? You can't play with the AHL. You cannot play. You can't go to.
You play in the KHL.
No, he can't. Not unless he is actually accepted over there, and even that.
Like practice with some guys in the off season. Come on, Evan. He can practice with guys.
Oh, you can practice with guys.
Well, there you go.
You can't just go with the KHL team without.
No, I'm not saying he's. I'm saying
okay.
He's going to go back home in Russia and play.
Let's come back when we can talk about how right you are or how right I am. You think he'll be back by November? He ain't coming back. The best he's going to get back is mid-December, and he will be half the player he is, and they're stuck with a big $6.125 million
Can I bring up one other player that didn't play till December for contract negotiations for a different reason and came back and still had a solid season, even though he had 2 weeks to acclimatize? Do you know his name? His name is William Nylander. He held out until the last day in December, and then he came back, and he had a 2 to 3 weeks of bad game. And then he ended up being one of the better forwards and went on to have a great playoff season that year.
So he practiced with pros because he was allowed to because he didn't have a contract. When you're under contract, you cannot practice with pros. Very different.
He was practicing in Sweden because he was in Sweden.
With pros.
You're saying that Nichushkin can't practice with pros in the KHL, guys who are playing in the KHL?
No, they can't. Their season starts in July. Once their season starts, you cannot formally sit with any of those teams without approval. And I think if you
agree to disagree, we'll come back to this.
Okay, you know what? Why don't I bring somebody on that can set you right on those rules around the NHL? To being wrong. Okay.
All right. Now, speaking of the Maple Leafs, Sheldon.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say the Landeskog. I forgot to mention this. When you mention maybe not coming back, I get like goosebumps. In a bad way. That is such a sad ending to a career. Another career ended earlier, right? In such a sad way. And so I really hope that's not the case. It's just another delay. But even then, with how long he's been off, maybe that's what this becomes about. And I don't think that he's going to want to retire and leave the money sitting. So I think it's going to be your thing. LTIR or trade him away to get that LTIR off the books and make some signings. But you think that's maybe why this press conference is happening?
Yeah, I think they're going to figure something to do because it's going to be missed. Now, to transition over, because there's no easy way to transition this, Sheldon Keefe has been hired as the new head coach of the New Jersey Devils. Your thoughts on what he's doing, because he signed a 4-year deal. And it happens, because I had this discussion today with a former guest, Aaron Singleton. Apparently, the Toronto Maple Leafs are paying his first 2 years of his salary. So, Evan, he can play for 2 years and be on Toronto's payroll. And then the other 2 years, that's when New Jersey will come in and pay him.
Do we have that actually?
Yep, Darren Dreger reported it.
That's really confusing because – yeah, I guess maybe that this is Maple Leaf Sports, right? I know it's not called that now. It's not MLSE. It's another name now. You Toronto fans know the real name for your company now. It keeps changing. But you know what? Are you going to pay him? I don't know what he's making, $5 million a year to sit, and you have to pay that to not allow him to sign somewhere, or they say we'll take him, but you pay so much. Do you actually think that they're taking them because of the fact they get some savings in money? I don't trust that ownership in Jersey, man. Yeah. I think this is a bad move for Jersey. I think it's a bad move. That's not the right move for these guys.
You don't like Sheldon Keefe? I like it. I think the media was too much for him. What's it called? In Toronto, I think it's a lot. And I don't think that It was a lot. Like, it was a lot to handle with what you say. Everything's dissected. I think New Jersey is a big market, but it's not as a hotbed of a market as Toronto.
So I just got a text sent to me from one of my buddies through X, and someone connected to the Oilers, and he's telling me he thinks that he had heard that there was talks about Woodcroft and Jersey and a connection to the Oilers. Now let's speculate. Could they have been asking for the same offer because they didn't want to interview him and were given permission? So I wonder if they were looking at Edmonton's like, we're not paying for a salary to play for you. And good on them. I don't think anyone should pay for a salary to go play for another team. Like, that's ridiculous.
I think it's funny that they do it because they can let him go in 2 years, and depending on their success, they're out of it.
No money, no money.
Yeah. It's all water under the bridge. And I mean, of course, MLSC has so much money that to them this is nothing. Although they were really upset with how things ended up with Babcock, and they're still paying him, I think, for 1 more year. So really, it's a lot. But I think Sheldon Keefe is the right fit for that group. The big question for New Jersey, and Ray's not on tonight, but if he's ever on and we could talk about it, is the health of Dougie Hamilton. They lost Dougie Hamilton for a lot of this season, and without that, you need that stable back-end number 1 defenseman. Evan, what does almost every team right now in the Final Four have? Does every team almost have a stud number 1 defenseman? Evan Bouchard for Edmonton, right?
Okay, we go in there.
Miro Heiskanen for Dallas, right?
Oh, you know what? Hey, I know.
I'm just naming. We're getting to the series. I'm talking about number 1 stud defenseman.
Okay. So are we going to go there? Go ahead. You want to lay out some stats?
Adam Fox for what's it called?
Okay.
For the Rangers
have
Adam Fox and maybe Jacob Trouba, but Adam Fox.
Okay. Yeah. No, but number 1, you're saying number 1.
Adam
legit.
Fox.
Yeah. Okay, Adam Fox, because they don't have to play PK and power play, but they got to be a point producer and they got to be a solid. Well, not solid. They got to be a decent defenseman. They don't have to be a solid, but you either are top end defensive, a mix in between, and or you are so rock solid on like a Shea Weber, right? Otherwise, you're not number 1. Okay, so you're saying Adam Fox, and then over in Florida they have.
I would say it should be Aaron Ekblad, but you can also make a case for Brandon Montour.
I know that guy. That is amazing. Like, did he not come out of Anaheim?
Yeah.
Interesting, man. Anaheim was loaded back in the day. Okay, and then you move over, like you said,
Evan Bouchard.
Okay, so now let's go to Evan Bouchard. We're not going to talk Oilers. We're just talking players, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why would a lot of people are going to disagree with you? Saying that he's because he'll give up bad plays and stuff like that.
And he does. And I'm very critical of Evan Bouchard.
Okay. So you're what's the analytics telling you that he's a number 1 defenseman?
The points that he puts up and the goals for, goals against, especially with his partner Matthias Ekholm playing on the ice. Now in the playoffs, everything is highlighted, and he's made some pretty egregious plays. But overall, he was the key factor in the win against the Vancouver Canucks. But what I'm saying is that every one of these teams have a number 1 stud defenseman. New Jersey did not have a number 1 stud defenseman because he was down. When you lose that defenseman, you really feel the impact. And then you're supposed to have your number 1 goalie. They did not have a number 1 goalie. Now, they did get Jake Allen. Will they go after somebody like Linus Ullmark? Potentially. They could afford it. They were connected to Connor Hellebuck. But what I'm saying is that you need a number 1 stud defenseman in order to be competitive and go deep in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. And you got to be playing at your A game. The thing with Florida is that they're playing by committee a bit, so they're able to succeed that way, right? But all those teams are playing elite level defense.
Hey, I just back to the Bruins for a moment before we come back over to. Actually, let's go to I want to talk about Ullmark a little bit in the free agency market in a moment. But I'm going to give some numbers to back up what you're saying, because I did come prepared a little bit on analytics, because I know a lot of people want to rip Bouchard. You guys have probably already saw it, but Bouchard is the first defenseman in history in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs to have 20 points. Now, I am so sick of you guys talking about because they have 2 superstars. That's the reason. Well, why the last 2 seasons did we not have that? Why do other players not get to that point? Yeah. It's not because of them. He is not just setting up the Bush bomb. It's his presence on the bomb that allows the guys down low to open up. It's not the opposite. They're not opening up just for him. It's a full combo. So they work good together. So I would say Bouchard is making Draisaitl and McDavid look better because of what he can do on the back point. And yes, I saw in game 6. So in the game 6, he let go. He gave up the puck, cost them a goal. Yeah. And the next play, he's out there and sets it up for a Bush bomb.
Yep.
Like literally, this is Paul Coffey-esque. Very much. And who's he being trained by? Paul
Well,
Coffey.
Coffey.
You know, and Coffey is really giving them confidence. And Matthias Ekholm will tell you that he is one of the best defensemen that he's seen and or played with. And he has played with some pretty good ones out there. So I just like to I've always believed in Bouchard as maybe a 2-3 guy, minimum a 3, maybe a 2. But he is right now like a 1B for me. And so, hey, good on him, man. And I hope it continues for him.
Just want to shout out to Matt Ashdown, who's tuning in through Instagram. Matt, great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. He's talking about this is exactly what got the Elks in trouble a couple of years ago. I wonder if he's referring to something specific. Feel free to let us know, Matt.
Yeah, get a little more detail. What you're referring, what got them into trouble? Are you referring to the top end management or the trading out, or I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah. And then Jordan chimes in, and Jordan and I have this debate all the time. People hate Bouchard defensively, and he was a plus 34 this season. Next closest D-man in scoring in the playoffs is Makar at 15. It's true. He's really, this is his coming out party, and he's been elite and electric. So I do want to just talk before we get into the Final Four.
We're going to talk about the Allmark just quickly?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So before you go over somewhere else, thanks, man. So see, we're so nice, and you're so courteous to me tonight. This is not a good show. It's not going to make for good.
We were arguing earlier. Well, we did our quota.
Yeah, we did it. We did our quota of arguments. So anyway, with Allmark, the teams. This is just in my head. This is a made-up speculation. There's nothing saying anything out there. So please, now you guys are going to only hear a little tidbit and not have the whole context, probably. But I am telling you, I could see Carolina being one of the teams interested. New Jersey, and you ready? Yes. One more team. And don't doubt that he could bring them in, because he's still trying to find a way to retool on the run, and that is Dubas over in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So I think if we just use deduction, that could very possibly, but it will be American. It will not be a Canadian. I don't see him going anywhere in Canada. It's not going to be about money for him. He wants to win. That's fair.
Well, we'll see. We'll keep an eye out where he goes, and we'll be reporting it as soon as we find out. So make sure you tune in. Remember to follow Evan at RevNev on Twitter /X, or me at hockey_2. Now, Evan, I want to talk a little bit about a couple other things happening in the NHL, because there's been a lot going on. There's been rumblings, and I wanted to know your thoughts about Ken Holland potentially being linked to the Columbus Blue Jackets GM job. Your thoughts? Do you think that this is, as we talked at the beginning of the show, just fans making up garbage as it go, or because his contract is coming up, he's going away, and because Edmonton has been linked themselves to Mark Hunter of the London Knights, who just won. So... And
by the way, congratulations.
Pens are in deep bantha poodoo next season. So if you watch Star Wars, you'll know that reference.
Not if they get Allmark, man. That they let go of Tristan, send him somewhere else, and work with Allmark. That can make the difference on the back end to make up in a couple of moves. So interesting. I think it's a bunch of
malarkey.
Caca. Let's just say I think it's a bunch of caca, and the reason is I know a little bit about Ken Holland, and I can tell you he has been ready for retirement for a while. He came in, wanted the opportunity. If he's doing any GM work, it will be another maybe year or 2-year extension while they're trying to cross over in Edmonton. I cannot see. I think that's a hoax. He wants to go back to Vernon and finish off his retirement, maybe be connected into consulting or something around in the hockey world. I just do not. I feel like he's come to that place. He doesn't want all the work anymore. And his family really wants to spend time with him.
That's fair. I thought the same thing about Sheldon Keefe, and here we are. But I understand. I mean, if he goes out with one more, one more Stanley Cup with the Oilers, that's a high note to end on. But, I mean, anything can happen, Evan. You see what it's like. I wonder about Lou Lamoriello out in the island if he decides to kind of call it a day. But it'll be interesting to see. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know what Lou has left on his contract, but another little speculation.
I think he's got one more year left. I think.
And I wonder if the plan was for Wah to come in coaching, but Wah wants to run a team, not just coach a team. And I wonder if that could be a part of the possibility. I mean, he did clean up. Wah cleaned up for Lou. So You never know.
Not an easy
Possibilities.
feat. Not an easy
No.
feat.
So, hey, can I just mention something before we get to the NHL playoffs? We're going to talk about the Final Four and the conferences.
Sure.
Jacob Voracek, number 7 overall. Love the guy. Flyer. Jamie Basco, I know you love this guy. He was a great flyer in his day. He worked hard with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But, Jacob, if you're listening to this, I know you'll never come on this podcast with us. If I asked you, I couldn't even pay you enough because you're going to say I spoke down about you. But, dude, this dude calls out Connor Bedard for his non-celebration goal face. Because he doesn't do a celebration, his teammates come over to him and get all excited, and he's just like, And because he didn't actually celebrate a celly with his 2 goals, he made a big deal and says that was making a mockery of hockey, that's disrespectful. He likes his talent, so you know what, Jacob? I think that you just got to relax. Maybe you like goal selling, but not everybody does. And that brings me to one more piece that I want to make mention right now. I've just connected in this last week with 3 different scouts as we're working through everything. By the way, guys, my top 10, I gave it to you at the end of last week. It's official. It will be posted up, so maybe you can throw it up there for everybody right now. My top 15 is up there now. So you guys can go in and you can actually see tomorrow morning. I'm putting it up there. Just move over one slide on our slideshow there, bud. It'll be right in there on it. So my top 15 is up there. And the shocker for everyone is going to be Cole Yzerman. And I'll tell you more about that actually in an article that I'm going to be writing in the next week or so here before the draft. I'm going to definitely get busy. I have a video top 15. I am 1/3 done the video with my analysis and my breakdown and my specific details. We'll post it on our social media and I will show it on our page next week or the week after. But 3 scouts, you know what they're telling me?
What?
They're telling me one of the issues that they have that they're concerned about with young players is celebrations, goal celebrations. And that's why it's
What's wrong with
Jacob
that?
Voracek. No. The problem they're having is they're not learning the line, and we're teaching them to celebrate in a 7-3 game, to go pump your fist, take off from the rest of the team to another area of the arena, and then everybody comes and charges in. The attitude and the characteristic is called too cocky, and you shouldn't be celebrating. You have to learn your moments in your time. So that's why I find it interesting. And they're saying when they're scouting players, this is how they celebrate, at the times they celebrate, sportsmanship, how they handle it. And you know what? Bedard has been taught, you're in preliminaries. You're against a team you should be scoring. He's not going to go freak out. He doesn't even freak out. He's got a calm demeanor even in Chicago, unless it's an important part of the game. So anyway.
Evan, Jordan says you're too high on Yzerman and not high enough on Lindstrom. I'll let you comment on that. And he also talks about how it wasn't Roy that made him shave it. It was Lou, and Lou needs to go for that team to be successful. I think it just needs a fresh voice. But your thoughts on going
Roy?
too high on Yzerman,
Yzerman,
and not high enough
Yzerman.
on
Yzerman. Yzerman. And I'm telling you, Yzerman, Jordan, go take a listen to Flyers Nitty Gritty. You can catch Jamie Basco did an interview with Kyle Yzerman. This guy wants physicality. He likes tough hockey. People are not giving him credit. And one of the reasons is from the people and the scouts that I've talked to, what they're saying is he will drop in the draft. We already know that because a lot of people have a different take. Just like Mishkov dropped. And by the way, that's a whole other story, man. We haven't even got into because we want to talk playoffs. How much time we got here?
We got 15 minutes.
Okay, so that's why I have Yzerman. And Lindstrom, I actually saw Lindstrom play twice, and I followed him on about 4 different shows. And I was not as impressed. I think he does have the right build and stuff. I'm worried about his intensity for the game. I think he's not bad for his hockey IQ. I think he is a perfect fit, but I think he's ranked way too high for me. And remember, my listing is based on a career. Who's going to have the better career? So anyway, that's the reasons that I've dropped it. No one else.
You guys need to go for coffee and sit on other sides of the booths as I referee this whole situation. You can talk about the OHL versus the WHL, as you guys like to argue about which has better prospects. So, but speaking of elite players and getting back to it, so we've got the Final Four, Evan. I wanted to get your thoughts on the game tonight. on the Rangers versus the Panthers. What to expect even after or as game one goes on.
Okay, I just want to mention though, Jordan, you're mentioning about why. I said because of Lou, he influenced them. That was what I was actually referring to. So I just noticed that. Okay.
And Jordan,
anyway.
Well, Jordan's saying back now, when Kirby Dach was drafted, he was interviewed by Stevie Y and said he heard teammates told him he was a pot smoker. It wasn't true, but he was trying to see if he would cave. I think the thing with Kirby Dach is he's injury prone. It's not worked out for him, even in what's it called, in Montreal. Even though he had a good juniors and good, good prospect history, he hasn't been able to fill it to the potential. He could be a 20 to 30 goal scorer, a second line center, but he has struggled. And you know who I compare him to? And I think he needs to maybe get some updates or information from Jonathan Drouin. Jonathan Drouin was highly touted, struggled a lot, got traded, didn't do well in Montreal, and Nathan McKinnon took a chance on him because they played together. And he's had a really solid year in Colorado, and I think he stayed healthy, and that was the big thing.
Yeah.
Kirby
Dach, and I think it's important that we remember he was mentored also with the Mooseheads by Nathan McKinnon. Yeah. Nathan McKinnon is what he needed. He needs that mentor. He needs that person in front of him to help him. And he is on that working through mental health stuff, right? That's been an ongoing. So I'm really glad to see those changes for him. So, but okay, let's talk about the series that's going on right now. I did have some other things, but we just don't have enough time. Okay,
we'll do just quick thoughts. Go ahead.
We're talking about Florida Rangers.
Yes.
Okay. So first up, man, now I got to watch about half of the first. That was all because we were coming on. Spoiler alert. So if you don't want to hear the score, hit your mute button. I'm going to mention the score. I'm not going to put it in the comments. Okay. You done? Okay. So I see it on my screen right over here. It is 1-0 for Florida. And we have only a minute left in the second. I'm looking forward to the third period. Now, I don't know. And if you guys have been watching, let me know. Matt Rempe needs to be out there. He needs to be taking out Bennett or other guys because this needs to be an all-out war. I'll tell you what the Panthers are. They're a team of warriors. Look how many were hurt last year. They played through it. This team is absolutely insane. Well, they're on a power play now, so they're about wanting to tie it up at the end of the first period now. So, hey, how you doing, Colleen?
Great to see you, Colleen. Hope you're having a good time. Thank you for tuning in. So I agree. Go ahead.
What's your thoughts? Do you think that Lafreniere has to continue to be a difference maker to win this series and get to the cup?
Yes, but also Shesterkin needs to stay on top of his head because Bobrovsky's playing unreal again. He seems to dial it up in the playoffs and know how to turn it on. The one key factor, X factor, I think, for the Rangers is going to be Vincent Trocheck. He's had a good first two series. Can he continue to play at that elite level as a second-line center? And remember, he played against the two teams that gave up on him prior. So he's trying to prove something, and he's been a great pickup for them. The other thing I think the Rangers have to be cautious of is you don't want to fall into the Panthers game. The Panthers play rough. They play dirty. They will play sleazy. They will get in your face. Paul Maurice will call things. He will try to get under the skin. Now, Laviolette's spring chicken. He's been around the block. He knows what's up.
Exactly.
But you got to understand that this team is going to bring it. They're going to get physical. They're going to get hard. And I worry that if you bring in Rempe, that you're going to fall into their game. That's not the game for the Rangers. The Rangers are more of a skill-based, power play specialist teams, and they know how to score and finesse on the ice. Of course, the Panthers are going to try to stop that, but I think you got to be able to exploit the weaknesses. And one of those weaknesses right now, as we talked earlier, is Aaron Ekblad. He's struggling, and you got to be able to get past him. Go ahead.
Let me throw this out, and let me just get your thoughts on this. Yeah. So you get Matt Rempe out there. You have a guy that is not one of your top guys at all, okay? And if he takes off Sam Bennett, you got Rempe and Bennett off. Or even if he goes in and gets a 5-minute major and just rips a new one on Bennett, do you not think the message that stands immediately, like, you're not messing with us? Because there's no way we know the Panthers will play on the edge. They're going to be like the Kings or the Vegas Golden Knights or even like Vancouver, where they're going to clutch and grab. They're going to hold. They're going to stick their stick in your face or up your crotch. They're going to do all that stuff. You know, if you ain't cheating, you ain't winning. They come from that school. You know, and no wonder Calgary fans like them. No, I'm just joking, guys. But no, honestly, I think Rempe in exchange, or even if he gets 4 or say 5 and another guy gets 2, he's taking off good players. You know, and so I guess that's my reason. You got to get something out there. But if you want to put him out in this game, so again, and he needs to do something though, and he's got the reach, but don't put him out in dire situations. That's the only key.
I look at it as a team effort, and Florida plays that team effort. Now I picked, and I could be wrong, the Rangers in 7. That's how like tightly these are both elite teams in the East, 2 of the best. But I think Rangers can outskill them because they have one of the better power plays, second next to Edmonton. But I really think that if they fall into the trap of playing the Panthers game, the Panthers can quickly end this in 6. That's how well the Panthers can play. And the Panthers have the experience. And the only thing with the Panthers is they can be beat up. That's the only thing, is that they're exhausted playing in this. And then Jordan's asking, would you guys agree this is the best Final Four teams we've had in years? Every single team is elite and serious cup contenders. I agree. I think Paul Maurice said it today in his presser. He said that any team you can make a case for winning the Stanley Cup and making it a base. Now, the fun fact is it's been over, I think, 30 years since the last any of these teams have won. Now, Florida never won a Stanley Cup, but they're back in it potentially for one more go again.
This is the
Rangers in 94, Edmonton in 1990, and of course the Ellis in 1999. So
the Panthers been there twice. They were there with the Beezer back.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying last year, and the fact that you can come back like a Tampa Bay, they're trying to be the new Florida team. That's how good they are. So,
and isn't that amazing? If you think you live in the state of Florida, how much winning hockey you have going on there between Tampa and Miami. I mean, this is so good for hockey in the state of Florida. It's so good for hockey in the state of Nevada. And it's so good for hockey for so many years, LA and Anaheim and San Jose doing well. And it's proof our show brings in probably some of the highest viewerships in those places, in Nevada, Florida, and California. And so, you know, if you're a fan and you're following with us, hey, I just want to give you guys, man, you enjoy your hockey while you can, because you've also gone through a lot of pain in years past too to get there. So,
and Jordan can let us know your thoughts and anyone else about if you think it's the best, because I agree it's probably one of the best. Ratings are up, I guess, according to the ESPN and TNT markets, the TV guide. Exactly what Gary Bettman and the NHL wanted. And it's just interesting. I do want to add one thing, but I'll let you go ahead.
Unsung hero. So I'm going to give an unsung hero for each team in the Final Four. I know we're going to move over to the Western in just a second.
Okay, yes.
Okay, my unsung hero and or the person who has to be I'm not talking Conn Smythe. I'm talking the player from this point on in this round and next round if they make it from either team. So Lafreniere has to be the unsung hero if the Rangers are going to get there. Unsung meaning he's not going to be the Conn Smythe, but he's going to be coming through and paying dividends on the contract he's on. Panarin will have to be the superstar he is in order for them to get to the cup. We already know what you're going to get from your goaltending, basically. In Florida, I think the difference is going to have to be that you're going to have to see Reinhart have the same postseason as he has regular season the rest of the way. And the unsung hero, I'm going to go with Carter Verhaeghe again. That will be the difference. That guy could have been the Conn Smythe last year if they had been good enough to win. I mean, it was an amazing run. So, and then I'll talk about the next one when you get over there.
So before we get to that other series in just a sec with Dallas and Edmonton, there was that trade where Ryan McDonald requested to return back to the Tampa Bay Lightning from the Nashville Predators. So he was there in Nashville. He was traded because they couldn't fit him under the cap. But the thing with this trade is that even though some picks were involved, and one of them is a former Edmonton pick, a 4th-round pick from this upcoming draft. It looks like Ryan McDonough is returning, and there's no salary retention for Nashville. Your thoughts on Ryan McDonough returning back to Tampa, and what does this mean for Tampa, given that they still have to sign Steven Stamkos?
I don't know how they're going to get this cap in. I think, yeah, if I'm hearing you right, that's one of the thoughts that you had immediately.
I think it was 6.75 is what he's worth still for 2 more years or one more year.
So does that mean that Stamkos is not going to be signing? Because I can't see Stamkos at what he's able to produce right now, why he's taking under 8 for anything. And that's a really good deal. And I think if Stamkos is going to sign anywhere with another team, he's going to be thinking, if it's with Florida, saying in Florida with Tampa, I think that he's going to be saying, he will have a no trade clause because he won't let himself be traded out of a no tax state, right? Because you sign lower, say $1.5 million, $2 million lower, and then you get traded, and now you got to pay higher taxes. Not going to happen. So
there's a bold one: Stamkos to Toronto and Marner's traded.
Wow. Well,
back home where he was supposed to go originally.
You know, man, I almost wouldn't doubt that now. I wouldn't doubt that now. I'm telling you, Toronto is up to something this offseason. If you're a Maple Leaf fan, you should be excited.
Can I be honest with you? I don't think they're moving Marner. I don't think they're moving either of those guys. I know there's a lot of rumblings. I don't think they're moving him. He's not going to waive it.
No, you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think he's sticking around.
I think they made their choice when they signed Craig Berube, by the way, as the new head coach.
That's fair.
And by the way, Calgary lost assistant coach
Mark Savard. Mutually parted their ways. Mutually parted ways.
Who is rumored to potentially maybe being headed over to join the staff with Craig Berube.
That's fair.
That would be interesting. So anyway, I actually believe Marner will be gone. He is not a Berube player. That's not going to work. I actually think something's going to be in the midst. That's my take.
That's fair. I think they can get it done. I just think it's going to be hard with the no movement clause, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll be ahead here.
It's going to be.
You guys can tell me I'm wrong when it happens.
And you know what? I think actually Marner likes to be in Toronto, but I think he'd like a fresh start because it's not like his production has fallen off. It's not like the rest of the team is performing way better than he has. You know what I'm saying? It's just like so he can keep his head up held high and move on.
We got this guy tuning in, Jordan Roberts, who keeps predicting all these silly trades where I keep hearing them. Marner to Nashville for a first, Novak Evangelista. That's a big haul for a guy who's only got 1 more year left.
Actually,
and it'll be after July 1st once he's paid out his actual dollars. Because even though his cap hit will continue to be just under 11 million, his actual cash ownage will be less. So, that's the only thing.
Yeah, that's.
And they did again. Nashville did just move McDonough out. That's almost 7 million out. So that's a big thing. And of course,
I'm telling you, if that's all Toronto gets back, that's a bad haul. I do not like that haul at all.
He's like, it's Novak or Evangelista. I thought maybe Sissons would be in the trade, but we'll see. And they want a defenseman. So I know Toronto fans will be salivating to get Roman Josi, but I don't think they'll.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we will go about 3-4 minutes overtime. We got 5 minutes here.
We got 5. We're good. All right. So Dallas and Edmonton, your thoughts on this series, what to expect, and what's the X factor? Who are the players that unsung heroes? Evan, go ahead.
So this series I'm more interested in, and not because I live in Edmonton. I'm actually more interested because this is one of the more unpredictable series out of all of them. This series can literally be like a 1-goal game, or it can be a blowout by either team. You do not know. There will be so much tension. I do believe if it had been Colorado, Edmonton had a better chance. I do see Dallas coming out in a 6 or 7 game win series. Now, however, I do want to say that I am really wondering what's going to happen because essentially the whole playoffs, Dallas has run with 5 defensemen.
Yes.
They have run with 5 defensemen. These guys are overworked, and 4 defensemen are pretty much running the PK on a regular basis. So, because Heiskanen does not PK, and then Harley, Lindell, Tanev, and Suter are going to be the 4 guys trying to kill off those big boys with Edmonton on that power play, which is the number 1 power play. Now, are they going to learn something and work off of something that they learned from the Canucks during that game?
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, that actually I do not think they'll be as good at stopping that play. I think the height literally of guys like Myers and Zadorov on the PK with that reach and being big giant trees helped the Canucks really box out that area. So I do not think, and I am wondering, the first 2 games is when Edmonton needs to take it, because they need to wear these guys down and get their wins early, because later on, I think they're going to be tired, the defense, even if they try to go in occasionally on this one. So and I think Ottinger is going to be the difference maker.
Yes,
he's either going to play average.
What Ottinger are we getting?
So if Ottinger, if they're going to win, Ottinger has to, you ready for this? Ottinger has to be a 915 or better.
Yes.
If Edmonton's going to win, all Skinner has to do is be a 902 or better.
I think 905, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm going to say 902.
I want to say that this series is either going to go 6 or 7 again, because if you look at Dallas, they were down 0-2 against Vegas in the first round, and they came back storming, and they were physical. They know how to play that game. I think the biggest factor for for Edmonton is not letting their emotions get the best of them. And you know that they have Jamie Benn amongst some others who's going to get under the skin. And I don't know if you remember when him and Zach Hyman were standing outside of a scrum and holding each other just kind of shoulder to shoulder, and then Ben slashed his stick after the whistle, and they got into it right after that. So I see it as Jake Ottinger is the X factor for them. I think Edmonton, if they play by committee like they did in game 6 and 7 against Vancouver, they have a chance to compete. And I think the problem is that Dallas needs to stay out of the box, because that power play can almost guarantee a goal or 2 every series. But I worry, and I think Knobloch is going to be, how do I adjust so that I can compete with Peter DeBoer, who is a veteran of the game and has been 3 times the Western Conference Finals and is an elite coach, and can make an impact and also adjust accordingly, right?
Edmonton has to come out 1-1 minimum, coming back to Edmonton
100%.
But if they can get 1 game in these first 2 on Dallas territory, with Dallas last change, with Dallas fresh, that is going to benefit Edmonton coming out with that early on. Then I see a minimum 7-game series either way. If Edmonton can come out with 2 straight games, there's no way Dallas is coming back, because they're going to have to play crazy hockey to be able. And I know they did it against Colorado, but you're not doing it against Edmonton. Edmonton has learned how to do, let's just call it not a trap, but they call it that neutral zone trap. The neutral zone where they're keeping 2 guys back, and that third player in the neutral zone is keeping a little further back, and they're not giving much gap on the blue line. And long as they can keep doing that, they have a chance.
Now, maybe I'm wrong, but have you noticed that McDavid isn't McDavid esque? Like, he's solid. He's got 21 points, I believe, so far. But it's Draisaitl right now who's the Conn Smythe favorite for me for Edmonton, who's been the X factor.
Yeah.
Then McDavid take it to another gear and take over a game. And I know there's rumors and rumblings that he could be injured, but can he make an impact? The other player that Edmonton needs to have more faith in and needs to play big minutes like he did in Winnipeg is Darnell Nurse. It's time to earn your contract and play elite level, be physical, but be smart.
Yeah,
I've seen it. He's played better now with Desharnais on that side, with CC dropping down to the third line with Kulak. But I think if Nurse can come out and play solid, this could be a very interesting series. So we should be in for a run. I'm excited to see where the next 2 weeks takes us. We will be back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Remember, guys, you can follow us on YouTube, Evan on X at Revenev, or me at hockey_2, the old Twitter. You can go to our website at twoguysandhockeytalk.com, where we have weekly articles. I got another one up today of things going on around the league, things happening. We are excited to be here. Thank you from wherever you are tuning into from all over the world. We appreciate it. You guys are the best fans in the world. We love it. Evan, any final thoughts before we take it out?
No, next week I'm going to talk a little bit more about Mishkov and the situation going on. I want to get some clarification of what's happening on there. We're going to start getting ready to talk a little bit more, that we're deeper into the playoffs. And we're going to talk about some off-season things happening around Russia. We want to have a little bit more conversation. I've been spending a little more time trying to get into a better understanding of what's happening with the different contracts. And always remember, translations in different languages are really difficult. So don't just trust the first source you see. And get context, please, everybody. Get context when you hear things. Look into the full story, not just the one-liner that you heard come out.
Well, and we're going to have more PWHL news. We're going to have more World Championship news as the preliminary rounds are finishing up. A great game today with Canada overcoming Chechnya 4-3 in overtime. Dylan Cousins having an unreal event, saying he's having a time of his life. You need that confidence in your young center. That's going back to Buffalo after a very difficult year. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and actually, I forgot. I want to talk. We'll talk about more Memorial Cup. And we'll also talk about the World Hockey Championships and what's come down and happened, because there's different takes that I have some thoughts on that I'd like to share about you around the rink.
Guys, there's so much hockey to watch and listen to and pay attention to, and we appreciate you taking your evening or wherever you are in the world, doing dishes, hanging out with us, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you're tuning in the world. We appreciate it. You guys are the best. As always, we are done. Thank you so much for tuning in to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. As we always say, Evan,
in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good
Cheers.
night. Thanks, guys.
Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't.